You're a freak. You're fat. Your hair is gross. You're a baby. You smell. Don't be a bitch. Everyone can see you. You should be followed. There. Don't you feel better now?
I feel weird lately.
Are you sick?
You know, the committee in your head that tells you that you're a terrible person.
You're nothing.
Just never really noticed it before. You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
You're a loser.
Are you okay?
You're so selfish.
I just don't feel like I'm on top of things.
Loosen up.
The way I've always been doing things just doesn't work now.
You're so beautiful, so delicate, I feel sick.
I've been telling myself to do certain things,
Hey, Sugar Plum.
Let it go.
act a certain way,
There's nothing better than watching her get all excited.
Don't cause a scene.
or else something bad will happen to me.
How could you be so stupid?
Maybe you cast yourself in a part you don't want to play anymore.
You're a pretty little flower,
I'm scared to do things differently.
You're going to fail.
I'm not listening to that voice.
What did you say?
I'm a sucker for the
You'll never find your way back to that kind of freedom.
I don't want to be afraid of some terrible outcome. I want to be free.
This is a huge mistake.
I want to be free.
No one will even want to come near you. You will be alone. Alone. Alone.
I want to be free.
In this podcast, Justine Bateman shares her experience directing her first feature, Violet, which opens in New York and Los Angeles on October 29th and theatrically November 5th. The feature will also be available on demand beginning November 9th. Let's jump right into it.
You have a experience directing on shorts. You've done a short before. Did that prepare you as much as you hoped it would have for this? And how did you ultimately get paired with your director of photography, Mark Williams?
Yeah, I think it's important to do a short before you do a feature. So if only to understand what it is you need as a director, to know how you like to work, to know, do you like rehearsals or not? Do you like a lot of takes or not? Like, it's easier, and also to sort of test out your crew. It's easier to do on a 2-day shoot than it is on a 19-day shoot. You don't want to find out on a 19-day shoot that you really dislike working with that particular production designer or something. Mm-hmm. So I'd wanted to direct since I was 19. So it really just felt the role feels completely natural for me. I just had to wait for the timing. And so when the timing started, I was like, oh, great, let's go. And it just feels extremely comfortable for me, comes very easily to me. And Mark Williams, I had met, my cinematographer, I had met years ago. His wife knows my husband from years ago. And we'd shot a couple of promos together that I had done. And then of course I had him shoot the shorts and then this, and we just work together really well. He has the same work ethic as me, the same like scrappy, like can-do attitude about, just getting it done. Like, we'll figure out a way, let's get it done. And we have the same kind of aesthetic taste in films and shots, and we'll send each other like screenshots of things we've seen, and we're like, oh, this is cool. We should do this in something at some point,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long was the shoot?
19 days.
19 days. That's considered on the shorter side for a feature, no?
Oh, it's like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's but for an indie film, that's pretty much the norm. I mean, that's what I'm accustomed to. I mean, in my career, back when I was acting, the only big budget things I ever did were well, I didn't do that. They were in TV mostly, but
Mhm.
all the films that I did were lower budget. So it's what I know.
Okay.
To shoot 6-7 pages a day, like that's what I know. That's the pace I know. So, I don't know, if you were to give me like 45 days to shoot a film, I'd be like, why?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, unless there's a lot of travel in complicated locations, that makes sense. But
do you have a preference as far as the technology goes? There's a lot of different cameras available these days. Obviously, film is a traditional format, but there's so many of these digital cameras that are very efficient and give beautiful looks. Is that something that you have a preference towards, or is that something that you rely on your director of photography to kind of provide their guidance on it?
I'm definitely not as versed in cameras as I'd like to be. Okay. I would love to, and I keep saying I want to do this. I got to do it. Like I really want like lessons from Mark on, and mainly because I want to know as much as I can about what's available, like what's in my tool chest that I can use to drive home the thesis statement of this film, or whatever project I'm doing. What's in the tool chest? Same thing with editing. Same thing with the lighting, with the production design, like everything. I want to know like what's at our disposal, and then when you need to drive home a certain emotional sense for the audience, you're like, how can I do this? How can I do this? Like, oh, I know. Why don't we use that one light we were talking about before? Why don't we this? Why don't we that? So yeah, I'm learning, but I certainly don't know as much as I wish I did.
Okay. Do you know which camera was used in this case?
I can, yes, if you give me a moment to go to my notes.
Okay, no, I didn't know if it was something you knew off the top of your head or
no,
not.
I don't. I'm going to look it up so I don't get it wrong. So we did have, and there was, I'll tell you more about this particular camera. I want to get the name for you. So this is a Sony OCN-XT in 6K.
On the editing side and the daily side, are you looking at dailies each day? Obviously, as the director, you've probably got a lot of stuff going on, just keeping the shoot moving. Do you have time to look at the dailies? And is your editor, Jay Friedkin, working along with production, editing as he's going, or are you finishing the shoot and then getting into the edit with him?
There wasn't enough time. I mean, I just didn't have enough time to look at dailies because we had, like I said, we were doing like 6-7 pages a day, and I need to prep the next day each night. So I don't have time to like slog through hours and hours and hours. I mean, I would look at dailies of stuff. I would look at, if we were about to move location, if I was about to go into the last day of a particular location, I wanted to just briefly look at some of the scenes that just to double check, make sure we got everything. Because once you move from that location, it's quite a production to get back to it. So
sure,
I would do it for that purpose. But no, the stuff that I knew I had on the set, I knew I had.
The edit took place after production, then you were involved in the edit.
I mean, I sat down with Jay and he had an assemblage, and then we just went through, just combed through every single moment, every single scene. And so like every day for a month. We only took, I think, 1 or 2 days off the entire month of September 2019.
Wow.
In a month. It was very late, especially the handwriting on it. It was very labor intensive, but yeah, it was great. Yeah, I was just with Jay like every minute.
Where was he working? Does he have his own home studio? Is he in rented space that you guys were then using and going in and viewing the sessions? What was the editorial setup?
Yeah, he's a partner at Union Editorial. So that's where we worked in Santa Monica, and they're terrific.
Okay, and you would go in and review his cuts and give him notes and let him work, or were you sitting there?
We would just sit down and do it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like I said, there was an assemblage, so we had something to start from, and then we just started going into every single scene, looking at every take and piecing it together.
I saw in the credits that Carbon VFX was involved. Now, I know it's not considered a visual effects film necessarily, but nowadays every film has some number of visual effects. Were there visual effects that the audience may not be aware of, or is it more cleanup and treatment to give it the ultimate look that you're going for?
Well, Carbon did the Aubrey Woodowis did the coloring, and he works
Okay.
out with Carbon. So they did that, and the flame for the, to marrying the title, the handwriting to it. But our special effects was done by somebody else.
Okay, and are there visual effects there beyond? I know you mentioned the color grading and stuff. What are the visual effects needs? Were there a lot? Was it unexpected?
No, the projection of the her memory of being on a bicycle. When we shot that, the lighting was practical. We would have, the light would be up, the general light for the scene would be up, and then we would project a rectangle of light, as if that was like a home movie being projected on the wall next to Olivia. And so we would do that practically. We'd back off the lights in the scene, and then that rectangle of light would increase.
Okay, so that was practical.
That was practical, but then in post, we put the imagery on there. Do you see what I'm saying? So that could set the canvas, if you will, because I didn't want to be tied into what footage I was going to be using there. I wanted it to have a practical feel, but I didn't want to be locked into the footage that we had. It was the order of shooting things. I didn't want to have to shoot that stuff first. And so
Understood.
that was VFX. Yeah.
Okay. On the soundtrack side, were you able to use original music or custom score for it? Do you have to use library or licensed music? And for something like this, where there's tension involved, sound design must have had influence there too.
Yeah, the sound design was great. That was Nathan Rule. And the score was by Voom, the band Voom, V-U-M. And this is their first soundtrack. I just love their music so much. I've listened to it for years and just contacted them and asked them if they would please do my score. So that was all original. And then the songs, of course, were already established.
Okay.
Those were just licensed. The sound design was really important to me because there's so many, I wanted the film to be an immersive experience. And so I had all these visual elements and audio elements to try to accomplish that. And everything's very specific, the sound, and everything corresponds with something else, the jarring Venetian snares music that goes with the violent interstitials, the visuals, and then the low hum that comes when she's numbing out when we see the red tint increase on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was very specific. The placement of Justin Theroux's voice, hopefully people can see this in theaters because, you design
multi-channel. Yeah.
And his voice is coming from a different place than all the other actors' voices, of course, because he's in a different space,
Yeah. Was the goal to always finish the edit and get a final product to make the festivals? Were you working with a deadline? Those festivals being the ultimate goal.
Yeah, for sure. We were making a late Sundance entry.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was fine. I mean, I don't know. I liked working like that. I know what I want. I don't like to drag things out unnecessarily.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
In hindsight, is the finished product what you had envisioned? Is it different? Have you learned something in this first experience as a feature director that you'll take? I know these projects are learning experiences and you get a lot out of it. What's your hindsight on a project like this?
Oh, I mean, Next time I'll have a music supervisor, so I'm not doing it. Next time I'll have a post-production supervisor, so I'm not doing deliverables. But, I mean, not having those two positions, afforded me an education in both those areas that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Mhm.
And also just how much can be done in the edit.
Gotcha.
Like the handwriting to begin with was not in the original script, but I got to what would be the final edit. And I was like, I don't have it yet. This film hasn't clicked in for me. And I needed this like passionate, desperate need to get out of her situation, I needed that feeling for the audience, and I didn't have it yet. And then I realized like, oh, I'll just write it on the screen. And then not knowing if it would work. And then, started making all these plates. I think we did like 384 plates. I did on a Wacom tablet, and we used like 124 of them.
Wow.
And it created this pressure cooker, the voice talking to her. I'd only had 50%, in the script, there's only 50% of what the voice eventually says in the film. So I increased that and added the handwriting, and it created this pressure cooker on Olivia's performance that I was like, great, got it. It snapped into place for me.
So that was something that was unexpected.
Well, that's something that was not in the original script.
Okay. What's next for you? I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're promoting this piece. Are you looking to direct again? Are you looking to do more writing? What's next?
Both. I mean, I have a ton of scripts that I want to shoot. So, this has been, it's been, this portion of it's been a lot of work. So I haven't been able to focus on, what you got to do for the next film, which is raising the money, just pounding the pavement every day to raise the money for the next project. So yeah, I've got a few that I'd like to be, any one of them could be my second film, and I just have to raise the money for them.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time, Justine. Pleasure speaking with you, hearing the insight about it. Hopefully we can talk down the road about some of the work that you've got going on in the future.
Okay, thank you.
That would be great. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.